Alright, in celebration of Enix's 40th anniversary, I'll be looking at a bunch of games. Part 1, I looked at the non-RPGs. Part 2, I'll be looking at the Western RPGs. And no, I don't mean things like Diablo, or KOTOR, or Dragon's Age. In Western RPGs, I mean the RPGs that actually made it over to the West. And the game you're seeing right now is Dragon Warrior, and the Dragon Quest series as it would be later recalled because it couldn't be called that. Anyway, that'll be another video in general. In fact, I think it already was one. Anyway, I just want to give a quick shout out to that game because it was the first Enix game that the West ever got. But it's not part of my top 5, so let's get into the actual top 5 right now. First up, we have Evo, Search for Eden. Now, this game kind of blows my mind because I'm discovering this post Super Nintendo my love of the system, and I've never heard of this game before until I searched it out. But basically, you're a fish, or you start off as a fish, like in life form, in this ocean, and you evolve. You literally evolve, and you have control over it. You can, it's like, oh, I want to have a better dorsal fin so I can swim faster, or I want to have like a horn, or I want to grow legs so I can go on land. And you just evolve in this RPG, and you eat fish. It reminds me of this really bad Mac computer game called Old Owl Lake, where you're a bunch of fish and random educational stuff from Minnesota. But anyway, no, this game is super awesome. You're a fish, and you evolve, and you stick your middle finger to all those religious fanatics out there. But no, it's seriously, it's a really, really inventive RPG, and man, I'd love to see something like this today. Up next, we have Illusion of Gaia. I remember seeing this game distinctly next to Chrono Trigger and Secret of Mana at Funcoland at the time before it became GameStop. And, you know, the big global Earth and the back of the box made it look like it was kind of like a Zelda-esque, maybe Secret of Mana type RPG. But it was a little bit cheaper, and even though that should spell good things, I was like, why is it so cheap? Maybe it's not that good. Anyway, going back to it now, it is kind of a dungeon crawler type Zelda action RPG, and it's pretty good. You start off, you're this boy, and you're wrongfully accused of kidnapping this girl or something. So the king sends you to this dungeon, and then you work your way out of there, and you talk to this disembodied voice, and you're given these powers, and you get settled different puzzles because you're psychic, and you just fight your way through, and you just discover all these secrets. But it's just a really cool, very still good-looking RPG on the NES, on the SNES, I should say. And yeah, it's definitely worth a look, even though the box art is very generic. And here we have King Arthur and the Knights of Justice. Now, if there's one thing that could use a resurgence, it's King Arthur. I mean, he has a very huge well of public domain that you can just turn into video games. Of course, the most recent one is The Order. Anyway, King Arthur and the Knights of Justice, Merlin talks this spiel to, and he's like, ah. So you're King Arthur, and you choose some knights to go along with you. Some of them are, of course, noticeable ones like Lancelot, but other ones are kind of named odder things. But you're like these mecha knights, transformations kind of things, and you just go out and you punch things with your swords, of course. And it's kind of cool. You get to choose your knights, go along for quests, and it's a very cool idea. I don't think it's very visually pleasing. It's very kind of generic, but the concept's cool, and I dig it. You know, it's just kind of a mash the guys with the blades. Here is another one that has escaped my grasp that's really, really awesome. It's called Robo Trek, and you're basically like this little boy, and your scientist father just kind of, you know, wakes you up, and then you basically go out, you build a robot, and from then on you build more robots, and you build upon that robot, just give them new arsenals or whatever, and you just fight stuff. It's like Pokemon. You literally have like a little ball, you just throw your robot out, pops out, boom. It's also kind of tactical. It's a turn-based RPG, but it's tactical because you have movements on the grid. You know, a gun can shoot far away, but you can't use melee way far away, so you gotta move in for the kill. There's strategy to it and tactics and all that stuff. But yeah, it's a very cool little RPG, and I think it's a cool concept for sure. It's not like making a robot and going out and fighting things is a novel idea like it hasn't been done before, most recently with Little Battler's Experience on the 3DS. But hey, it's still a neat little idea and a neat little RPG that you should definitely check out. Lastly, moving away from the Super Nintendo finally, we have Valkyrie Profile for the PlayStation. The footage you're seeing now is of the PSP version just because it's a lot easier to get a hold of than the PlayStation version, but I will just talk about Valkyrie Profile. So basically, it is based off of Norse mythology. You are a Valkyrie. Essentially, you're going out to the battlefield to stop a cataclysm from happening. So you're recruiting warriors who are about to die to embark on this quest to, you know, stop this malevolence. And you just go to these different places, and everyone has these backstories, and you basically go in with your recruitable members, you solve their problem, and you go on to the evil problem. It's really cool. It has a weird time thing to it that I'm not very... I don't like, especially for an RPG when you want to grind and get experience. I don't like time mechanics that, you know, counts down. I am not a fan of that. That's why I'm not a fan of things like Majora's Mask. Of course, they fixed that with the most recent version. And of course, you can rewind time. But still, I just don't like having that pressure on me. That's just me. But this is a cool little RPG. It's very visually awesome with the turn-based battles because you can do combos. It kind of reminds me of most recently like the Project Cross Zone games. But yeah, it's a very cool game. And you know, it did get a sequel, but it would be nice to get a new proper sequel for next-gen systems. But hey, here's wishing. And that's the end of part 2. In my final part 3, I will be talking about the 5 best fan-translated games that are JRPGs. Of course, some of the ones in the first video were, but no, these are strictly RPGs that are just amazing and that fans dedicated themselves to translating, especially one that just came out very recently, but I'll get into that later. Until next time.
Boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, subscribe, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, subscribe.